It's time for Recipe of the Day. Today is Cinco de Mayo, which requires guacamole. And today I'm telling you about what I call the easiest guacamole recipe. And that's because it uses pantry staples. So if I have some avocados and I wanted to make homemade guacamole, but I've had a busy day and I'm exhausted, or if I have avocados, but I don't have the other fresh ingredients that usually go into there, so I either don't feel like chopping or I don't have anything to chop, then I do this, which uses pantry staples or like seasonings instead of the fresh cilantro, onion, tomatoes. Okay. And what I love about this is actually if I have some of the ingredients, but not all of them, I can also do a hybrid, right? So if I don't feel like mincing garlic, I can use the garlic powder and it tells me how much of the garlic powder to use. But if I feel like having some fresh onion in there and I've got some green onion or some red onion, I can chop that, skip the onion powder and use the onion instead. And it tells me how much of that to do. So you could do the full pantry version or the full fresh ingredient version or somewhere in between. I literally almost think I should make a cheat sheet for this to put on my fridge so that I could just look and see how much of whichever one, the fresh or the pantry, I need and can make my different hybrid however it is on that day using that cheat sheet. I might just do that. Okay, but for now, I'm going to tell you what to do. First, I'm going to tell you just the seasonings, and then you have that, and you will know that this is based on my guacamole seasoning recipe, which makes a full batch, like a half cup. So you mix that up, and then you have it in your pantry, and you just measure 1.5 teaspoons of it per avocado whenever you're making guacamole, and it makes it so quick. It's wonderful. So I will link to the guacamole seasoning recipe. And this is just based on that, but for 2 avocados. So you pit and peel 2 avocados, add them to a medium-sized bowl, and use a fork to mash them up. And then to that, you're adding a teaspoon of dried cilantro, half a teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin. Now, I know a lot of people find cumin a little overpowering, so if this is you, you can skip it or use less. A 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a pinch of cayenne if you want that little bit of heat, and then you can add some citrus juice. So 1 to 2 teaspoons of lemon or lime juice. If you have the bottled stuff on the door of the fridge, that is going to work. If you have the fresh stuff, use that instead. I don't recommend skipping this because it is really like quintessential for guacamole to have that citrus juice in there, and it also stops the guacamole from browning as quickly, so you do need to have it. But you know what, if you don't and you're eating it right away, you can skip it. It's gonna be fine. You can also alternatively do some lime zest, half a teaspoon of lime zest. I know some people freeze their zest from lemon and lime. If that is you and you have some, you could do that. And like if you really want to take this whole pantry staple thing really far, that like crystallized lime that people buy to put in their water on the go, that kind of thing, that works here as well. Oh, the brand name is True Lime, and you use the tiniest bit of it. It's 1/16 of a teaspoon here. Now, the other thing that I've tried before that does work is something like lemon pepper, which has that citrusy note. And you can also try using some ground coriander. It has a citrusy note, as does sumac. If you have any of those things, you can add a pinch of that for that more citrusy note in there. But just note that those seasonings don't prevent the guacamole from browning. Only the citrus juice will do that. The other ingredient that I have here is a half teaspoon of tomato powder. This is literally powdered dried tomato. It is like a fine, fine powder, and it tastes like sun-dried tomato. If you have that, try using it. Most people don't because you can't get it at the grocery store. So if you don't have that, you can, of course, add some fresh tomato. It's going to be about half of a medium-sized tomato chopped up. Or you can get out a fine mesh sieve and into it put a 10-ounce can of Rotel or a 1/4 cup of petite diced tomatoes or a 1/4 cup of salsa. A little bit extra. You want to have like a 1/4 cup at the end of the salsa or the diced tomatoes, and then give that sieve a shake over the sink. A lot of the liquid will drain away, and then you add that to your guacamole mixture. Then you give that all a stir and you're going to let it sit for 3 to 5 minutes, which allows that dried cilantro to hydrate and all the flavors to blend. And then you're digging in. Now, if you wanted to do the hybrid with some of the fresh ingredients or all of the fresh ingredients, I'm going to tell you the substitutes now. So it's 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped cilantro instead of the dried. You could do 1 tablespoon of finely minced red or white onion or chopped green onion. You can do, like I said, a half of a tomato chopped up instead of the tomato powder or the canned tomato. And then it's a half clove of minced garlic instead of the garlic powder, and a half to 1 teaspoon of minced jalapeno instead of the cayenne. So you see how you have all these different amounts of the pantry staples or the fresh ingredients, and you can sort of choose your own adventure given your energy level. You feel like mincing garlic or you don't. You feel like picking all that cilantro and chopping it or don't, and what you have on hand. And then you end up with a delicious guacamole no matter what. I hope you have a vibrant and beautiful day and that you're having something like guacamole and maybe a margarita to celebrate. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is May 5th of 2025. The other place you can get the link is in our Facebook group. I post the recipe of the day link there every single day, so you can always be inspired about what you can make that day or in the days ahead, and you can always find the recipe. That Facebook group is at facebook.com/groups/recipe OTD. I look forward to seeing you there. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast recipe of the day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.